Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm proud to stand in my place and enter the debate today and speak to this motion. I think it comes as no surprise, Mr. Speaker, I won't be supporting this motion as it's written and read. Last April, the budget of 2017 made some tough choices. We made some tough choices that needed to be made, and as we move through this year, we've come to see that they were choices. Some of them weren't the best choices, but some of them hit the mark. So, the people of Saskatchewan let us know what they liked, and certainly they let us know what they didn't like, Mr. Speaker, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our democracy and the ability for people to come and criticize and talk to us about things that they don't appreciate that their government does, and I'll defend that right for anybody to do that every day of the week. I enjoy the conversation, and governments are no different than anybody else. Sometimes they get things right, and sometimes they get things wrong, and I think it's indicative of our government of how we take that criticism and move forward with it, Mr. Speaker. This budget touched everyone, as every budget does. It's no secret that the government actually doesn't have a job. The only income that it receives, it takes from people and business and resources. And so when you're entrusted to spend that money as a scarce resource, it's a huge responsibility. And we take that responsibility very seriously, Mr. Speaker, as everybody in Saskatchewan expects us to. They entrusted us to do it, and they expect us to do a good job of it. Saskatchewan people, though, Mr. Speaker, they also understand that, for the last 10 years, things haven't been really that bad. In 2007, we started off down here. I always like to explain, Mr. Speaker, we started off in 2007 here, and in 2016 we were here. And last year we just took a little step down. We took a little step back. We readjusted to the fiscal reality that we have right now, and the people appreciate that. Some appreciate it more than others, but people overall do appreciate that. People in Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker, understand that you can't continue to spend more money than you bring in. That is a basic economic principle, Mr. Speaker. You can't spend more than you have. In your own house, Mr. Speaker, if you bring in $1,000 a month and you spend $1,500 a month, eventually that becomes unsustainable. That's a basic economic principle. Either revenues have to rise, expenditures have to go down, or some sort of a balance of the two. And that's what we tried to do last year in the budget, Mr. Speaker. Saskatchewan people also understand, Mr. Speaker, that it's morally wrong to continue to live at a high standard of living that's unsustainable and expect someone else to pay the bill. Especially, Mr. Speaker, when that someone else is our children and our grandchildren and their children, Mr. Speaker. There's something just morally wrong, and people in Saskatchewan understand that. So thankfully, the people in Saskatchewan have tightened their belts, they've put their heads down, they've put their shoulders to the grindstone, and they've said, you know what, this is how we operate here, this is how we work in Saskatchewan, and we're going to get things done. We've got a 3-year plan to balance, Mr. Speaker. We're going to carry down that path and accomplish our goals. Mr. Speaker, in the budget last year, we also said that we are going to invest in priority government programs, services, and infrastructure. And I think we saw that, Mr. Speaker. 6% increase in social services, 3% increase in health. And yet still, Mr. Speaker, they're called cuts. I don't know any other program on earth, Mr. Speaker, that gets a 6% increase, and it's called a cut. 6.9%, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. I was being conservative, as I tend to as I tend to do. Our province's credit rating remains among the highest in the country. Mr. Speaker, that's because we've looked at our fiscal situation, we've decided to make steps to rectify it, and we've got a strong plan to return to balance. That's why our credit history, or our credit rating, is so good. There's no doubt that we still face a fiscal challenge, Mr. Speaker. Any time that you take $1.2 billion off the table for 3 years running, you're going to run into some challenges, Mr. Speaker, but we are meeting that challenge. So let's talk a little bit about how life is more affordable under the Sask Party government. In 2007, Mr. Speaker, a combined income tax and PST incidence on Saskatchewan residents, so basically a family of 4 who's making $50,000 in 2007, the total tax bill for that family was over $3,000, Mr. Speaker. Wow. Last year, that same family of 4 making $50,000 paid $2,366, Mr. Speaker. $2,366. That's, you got it. $634 cheaper. Mr. Speaker, we've taken 112,000 people completely off the tax roll in the last 10 years. So I wonder how those people, Mr. Speaker, would feel about how the Saskatchewan Party has managed the economy. A family of 4 that I just talked about, Mr. Speaker, in Saskatchewan pays no income tax on the first $50,000 of income. That's the highest tax-free threshold in Canada. Now, Mr. Speaker, we go to the third quarter. Our bottom line forecast actually improved from budget time. We have more to accomplish, but we're meeting the fiscal challenge by controlling spending, shifting away from over-reliance on volatile resource revenue, and ensuring our province and our economy remain strong. So now I always like to contrast, Mr. Speaker, what this government has done and the economic growth that we've had in our province over the last 10 years, and I also like to compare it to what we can look forward to if ever the NDP are elected back into government, Mr. Speaker, and we can look back on heaven forbid, we can look back on what has happened in the past, Mr. Speaker. We've gone through this over and over and over again, and you know, there's the member from Kenora Pelly will be in long-term care, but the bed will be closed before he gets there. So, you know, Mr. Speaker, we can look at the promises that were made just a couple of months ago in the NDP leadership race, and I have this document that was tabled last week, costing out the 2018 Leader of the Opposition's platform. So this platform adds $2.5 billion annually to the budget and obviously to the debt. We, you know, we look at, well, we can go through it. The member from Saskatoon-Natana wants to know how we costed it, and I can go through it here. Should we price it out? Maybe we're short. Maybe we're short of a few $1 billion. But let's look at it here. For seniors, for example, we establish a dementia strategy to proactively address the growing incidence of the condition. Sounds good. Sounds good. $3.6 million. $3.6 million. Should I? Yeah, I can keep going. Absolutely, I can keep going. In education, develop and implement a comprehensive early years action plan to achieve the best outcomes for children. Sounds great. $8 million. $8 million, Mr. Speaker. So I won't support the motion, Mr. Speaker. I'll stand behind our government's budget from last year, and we need to continue down the path that we've chosen. We're going to get back to balance next year, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to ensure that our economy will keep going and keep becoming stronger and stronger. We've made investments in the people of Saskatchewan. We've made investments in very important initiatives in Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. We're going to continue doing that. I won't be supporting the motion. At that, I'd like to say thank you very much.